well, what's next? Like I've been in my consulting role for a year or more. I've been in my internal admin role for a year or more. And I don't feel like I'm where I want to be. I feel like there's more here. I still remember remnants of hearing you on a podcast talking about some kind of part-time situation where you made more money than I make in my full-time situation. And so I feel like I'm not done yet with what the goal was. So I want to keep moving forward. How do I keep moving forward? With this, I feel like it really introduces how do we get to that point where we live a life that we truly enjoy? Like we get to design our life now around these skills that we've built. We get to work 60 hours a week and run our own consultancies and become massive, thought leaders and influencers and speakers at all the events. If that's our thing, we can sit in corner offices with C-level titles and do that. Or you can take the exact opposite approach, right? Which is largely what I did. And you can say, yeah, I want to do my own thing, but that's because I want to work 20 hours a week and have more work-life balance and still make plenty of income to keep food on the table for my family and save for retirement while I get to this point using these Salesforce skills. And then I think there's also a middle ground. It's like, hey, I'm not trying to do anything drastic. I'm not trying to start my own company. I don't want to freelance. I'm not ready for that yet. But how do I go from entry-level admin to solution architect? And how do I go from a consulting role that I'm not necessarily happy with to maybe an internal role that's a little bit cozier and has a little bit more balance? Or how do I go from, I got paid $70K in my entry-level job, but I've been here for 18 months and now I make $75K and I hear about people making six figures. How do they do that? And I think a lot of times we know it's possible, but we just go, I don't know what to do next. Like, is it 10 more certifications? And I can tell you that I have 6 after 12 years, and it's not like certifications are not the answer. Now, if you want to be a technical architect and that is your goal, you want to be like one of these architect roles, yes, they're going to carry weight. Absolutely. But certifications alone, I don't think are going to make you design a life around a Salesforce career that you truly believe in and you want to wake up to and feel really, really good about it. So that's sort of why CAP exists, Career Accelerator Program. That's why it exists. I want people to now take these skills and design a life around the skills, not just have the skills and get a paycheck. So that's the ultimate goal here. I am going to screen share a little bit, and then I will get into your questions. I just want to give you an overview of what is inside of the program. You've got this side panel, and I'm going to jog the side panel because it tells you a lot about sort of what is in the program. And I'll go through some other things as well. But let's start sort of right here. This is the CAP core content. There are other ways to get to this information, but we can get into, yes, orientation, yes, live events, all this kind of things, but getting started with your current Salesforce role, top-notch client services. So how to actually facilitate projects. And like, if you're in a consulting role right now, or you're even in an admin role at a company, and you just want to dominate projects, like you want people to come to you with a new idea and they want to get something done, and you just look like a superhero, this is your section. Project process documentation, same thing. Like these are the exact templates, the files, everything that you need. I'll hop into them. But we're talking about, if you run a freelance business, we're talking about proposals, statements of work, how to invoice a client, how to get contracts in place legally for non-disclosures, non-competes, if you want to pick up a contractor, all these kind of things. We're also talking about business requirement gathering and solutioning and project timelines and how we actually manage a project, and every template you need. Like each one of these templates would probably take you 2 hours just to drum it up and get it in place, and probably 8 hours to get it right. Right. And we're going to hand it to you on a silver platter and go, boom, here it is. And so, a lot of people who have been in, we had a beta version, the Career Advancement Program prior to this. And a lot of people who joined the Career Advancement said, hey, look, those templates alone, that's the price of admission. Like that saved me so much time that I traded my time for money, and I'll do that all day. How to transition roles, if that's what you want to do. If you want to go from where you are today to just a different full-time role. Building your own brand at a different level. There's the things we talk about in the career development program that get you a job, right? There's the things we talk about in this that get you to a place where you're the founder of your own company, where you have a brand that you can post on LinkedIn, and suddenly people are coming to you wanting to be your next client. You are getting companies like App Exchange partners reaching out to you, asking to pay you to post for them, right? Like that's a different level of brand development when you're getting brand deals from App Exchange partners. High impact interviewing. So we're not talking about letting go of imposter syndrome and landing a job. We're talking about high impact. We're not talking about entry level jobs anymore. We're talking about architect positions and senior level positions. Like we have got to slam this thing home and make sure they leave knowing how valuable we are. And then specialty topics, it's a variety, it'll grow over time. And then the path of independent consulting, which is what I did for 4 years. And then there's some other things, how I solved it sessions or some lives that Anthony Scrim has done for us, just to show how he actually solves problems in the real world. And this will continue to grow. So I'm going to zoom out for a second and sort of push into this so that I know this is really quick and we intentionally, I'm not diving deep because we're going to get into that on the questions, right? But as you move through it, you can see it's another mammoth program, right? And the thing about this program, let's see if it shows up here. I forget how many, 74 lessons, right? It's huge. But this program is not meant for you to go to welcome and overview and then click next and next and next and next until you finish the program. This one is very much choose your flavor for what you need right now, right? Are you looking to transition roles? That's going to be a specific module that you need specifically on transitioning roles. Do you, right? So you come to transitioning roles. Do you want to start freelancing on the side? Totally different module. Do you want to start your own independent consultancy? Totally different module. And you can see even inside of transitioning roles, we're going from one job to another. How to qualify your next employer to make sure we don't end up, if we don't like our current employer, how do we end up with a good employer next time? Is it just because they pay $10,000 more? Is that going to make them good? Because it's not. We know that. So how do we get a great employer next time instead of hopping from job to job that we don't enjoy for whatever reason? We even get into, interviewing for full-time positions versus with consulting firms. There are major differences. There are major differences in what they're looking for compared to an internal role versus a consulting role. Independent consulting, it gets crazy. How do you find your clients? How do you manage them through the process? How do you get paid? Like, there's a contract that you have to send them that tells them the terms of the payment. Do they pay you for the project up front? Is it 50 up front? Is it 50 at the end? Is it 10% for 10 different milestones throughout the project timeline? Like, how do you get paid? And a lot of people, they jump into projects and they sign up for 100 hours and they don't even know what to do next because they've been on the delivery side. They've done the discovery sessions. They've done the implementations. They're really great at Salesforce, but they've never run the business. And this is, ultimately, to me, the Career Accelerator Program is a one-stop shop for whatever you want to do with your Salesforce career. And a big part of it is one of the first things that we do when we kick this thing off is we actually get you set up with a journaling, basically a journaling template that's going to allow you to outline your goals and then the steps you're taking to reach those goals step by step. And everything you need to reach those goals is going to be sitting inside of this program somewhere. And when you need what you need for your current goals, it's going to be inside of this program. On top of that, we're also going to be hosting live events. These are not live events like how to create a cool LinkedIn profile picture. These are live events like Q&As on how to run your own freelancing business. And you'll get to sit down and hang out with people who have already done it, right? Like I know for a fact, I'll be on the first 4 of those sessions, and then we'll decide where to take it from there. Because a lot of times I may know the context, but there are incredibly intelligent people in this world that know nuances and caveats and how to become a Salesforce partner and work that side of the game. So there's a lot we're going to get into. Live events. We have partner discounts for other courses and programs. And we're talking group discounts. So I want you guys to be able to hop in and yes, use this for its value and save money on other stuff as you go. So this is going to grow as we grow together. I know I've talked for a moment here, so I want to give you a chance to ask questions.
One from Andrea. What is to be expected from the one-on-one mentorship aspect of the accelerator course? Curious who I'd have as a personal mentor.
We're trying to keep this to an annual one-on-one session. And what it is we're going to have you do some groundwork and we outline it for you. And we're going to tell you, we're going to have to ask you to, try to figure out what your goals are. And we give you prompts to figure out what those goals are. We're hoping that you have a LinkedIn profile and a resume that are already in a good position. But your goal could be, I want to start a freelancing gig and I want to work 20 hours a month on freelance side hustle gigs, and I want to get there. All right. So we need to know where you're headed before we hop on a one-on-one call with you, right? And then you're going to outline sort of how you're going to reach that goal based on what you've seen inside of the program. And we coach you through, it's all there for you, DIY, to get you there. Then you're going to hop into one of these lessons, the one-on-one lesson. And it's actually going to, here it is. It's going to walk you through how to set up your meeting. And we're going to assign a person to that meeting based on your needs, right? We have to look at what your goals are and get you aligned with the right person who can actually speak to that. We're also going to, once again, just like career development, we're going to get your LinkedIn on point. We're going to get your resume. We're going to do a professional brand overview for you. Now, this is huge, right? Before in CDP, career development, we knew everybody was looking for their first Salesforce job. Today, if you want to be a thought leader, influencer in the Salesforce space, very different brand than I want to be a solution architect or I want to be a technical architect. Very different brand than I want to go from just an admin to an admin developer hybrid. The branding is totally different depending on what your career goals are, and we have to speak to that directly. So there are huge differences between what one brand review might look like for one person and what that review might look like for another person. So we first have to understand your goals. Then we truly do get you lined up with someone with a one-on-one session who's going to talk you through. And number one, we got to make sure your goals are really what you want, right? I've done this one-on-one coaching with people in the past, and a lot of times they come in and they're so societally motivated that all they can think is money, right? They're just like, I just want money. I just want I want to get paid like $200,000. Like that would be pretty wild. And then you start talking to them for a moment, and they're like, yeah, and I just really don't feel like I have the time for my kids, you know? And it's like, oh, okay, hold on a second. You were just talking about $200,000. Now you're talking about time with your kids. Okay. All right. Hold on. I don't feel like I get to travel as much. I don't ever get any time off. Okay. You're talking about senior architect positions, and now you're talking about getting time off. Okay. So let's not conflate these things. If you want to be a senior architect, you probably need to get 5 certs in the next 12 months, and you need to work your 40-hour-a-week job, and you need to apply for jobs. I don't think you're going to have time for a vacation if that's your ultimate goal. So we got to figure out, okay, we know what you think your goals are. We know what you feel your goals are. We know where you want to be and how you're motivated. Let's make sure we actually design a life instead of rushing into the next thing that seems cool, right? So a lot of times, if you're on LinkedIn in the Salesforce ecosystem, what is your goal? 9 times out of 10, your goal is going to be, what's my next certification and how do I get it? Well, where's that going to get you? Are you sure that's your goal? Are you sure that's how you want to spend the next 200 hours of your time? Or is there something else we could spend that time on to get to your true goal, which might be working only 40 hours a week instead of 60, working 35 hours a week instead of 60, finding a place where we can actually take our PTO instead of it rolling over and us just cashing it out at the end of the year. Like, let's find balance, whether that's job hopping, negotiating inside of your current position, defining better boundaries inside of your current position. And so, yeah, we get inside of those one-on-ones. We really have to get to know you. And by the time we set the goals in that one-on-one, those should carry you for a year. Could it change? Absolutely. Your goals could totally change in 3 months, 6 months, 9 months. But if we set that career plan up correctly, 12 months should be perfect for you to sit down and go, okay, I got to accomplish these goals. I'm going to journal it. I'm going to figure out how I'm going to get to that position week over week, month over month. And then we're going to reconvene after a year. We're going to do this again. And we're going to figure out how we're going to tackle this next year and make all these goals happen again and again and again. And when you do that, just 2 years, 1 year, like, it's amazing what you can accomplish in 1 or 2 years when you actually understand what you're doing and you have a proven path to get there.
Thanks, Brad. Next question is kind of a mix of a couple people's questions. So kind of with the 1-year access, or can you talk about the access? Like, how this is a potential subscription program? My
biggest concern when we launched CAP was brand confusion. It's like, Talent Stacker is an entry-level job company, right? It's like, yeah, we are, but are we allowed to do something else? Like, we want to do something else. So how do we do that? I know we're allowed to, but how do we make it happen without confusing the whole market? And largely that's why we're sitting on a live today, because we need to address a lot of this stuff. So here's the thing. If you're a Talent Stacker member from CDP, you know, lifetime access, right? Like, anything, everything, you log in, you're gold. Okay. So here's the thing. Career Accelerator Program, what we're looking at right here, the 74 lesson beast, this never gets taken away from you. This is you get this is does not, you don't lose access to log in or after a year. We're still figuring out the mechanics on that. We will figure it out by the end of the year. But ultimately, you're going to walk away with this course. Okay. Like you're going to be able to access this. However, updates to the course will not be added into your version. Live events will not be accessible. The one-on-ones will not be accessible, but it's not like we just rip it all away. You need to copy, paste, and download all the videos to like save it away, right? We get it. You're still going to access the community, still hang out with all the community members, talk in the group, see what other people are talking about. So, and you're going to be able to access all of the materials that are in here. So the goal is not to force people to stay inside of the program forever and keep paying and paying and paying. Our goal internally is that by the time your year is over, you're so bought in that you're like, I don't know how I would even do a Salesforce career without being like, why would I ever do that? Like, look how far I came in the last year. Of course, I want to do this for another year. Like, that would be absurd. And you're also not going to repay for next year. So, like, you don't pay upfront for this year and then pay upfront again for next year. It's we haven't decided on a price yet, and it doesn't ultimately matter at this point. At least I maybe naively didn't think it would. That ultimately, you're not just going to like repay the entire cost of getting into the program at the end of the year. It'll be some smaller, ongoing, maybe a subscription, or you can pay the year up front or whatever you want to do. But it's not going to be like we come back and we're like, hey, you got to repay for the whole thing, full price once again to get another year. If you know us, you know that's not what we're about. And that's effectively what we want to do, is just have a maintenance fee that makes it make sense for, if there's 1,000 members in Career Accelerator Program, then the maintenance fee makes sense to keep it updated for everyone who's already in it and getting value from it. So I hope that makes sense. This is new ground. Like I said, we're a small company. We don't have some big like chief technical officer and chief marketing director coming in and like telling us how to run our business like Microsoft. Because I don't want a $5,000 product. Like I'm not going to say any names. I just saw a product released that's, it's like $5,000 for a year of access. And that's what comes with chief technical officers and chief marketing directors and $200,000 salaries across the board for 40 different people, right? We want to keep this organic. We want to keep it personal. We want to have an approach where we can actually get to know members and help individuals move forward versus saying, hey, you got 12 weeks, 16 weeks, get in there, boot camp every Thursday, get out. We ultimately want to be able to have a relationship, but also make business sense, if that makes any sense.
Thanks, Brad. Next question. This is like hot seat with Bradley Rice. How fun. How I'm having fun. Okay, this one is good. We have a lot of crew from the development program. Hey. So do you think the Accelerator program is beneficial for those in the career development program now who are certified, completed their experience project, looking for their first position? Is this for them? Or can maybe say the difference between those two?
All right, get ready for me to put my sales hat on and hit you with the ultimate sales pitch. If you have not landed your first Salesforce job, don't buy this. Like, you don't need to buy this. That'd be crazy. Like, this is for people who are already in a role. If you have gone through the development program and you landed a job, or you're somebody else who's already landed a Salesforce job and you didn't go through the career development program, but you're in a Salesforce role and you're ready to level that up in a number of ways, this is for you. If you're looking for your first role, I can't tell you with a straight face. Now, is there value? Of course there's value, but shiny object syndrome, right? I don't want to distract you with another 74 lesson program. What you need to land your first job is in the career development program. It's in there. It's all there. Focus on that community. If you need help, reach out to support. If you need help, reach out to the community. You're not going to buy your way into your first Salesforce job. You've got to put in the work. So ultimately focus on the career development program first, get your first job. And then I think this has unlimited value. I think the Career Accelerator program has unlimited value once you are into the Salesforce job. Really, the key to unlocking this program is already being in a role, if that makes sense. I hope it does.
Awesome. Although once you land your job, you need to get in the cap right away, because that'll be super helpful for you too. Everyone who's been like job landing lately, I've been like, sign up now, read everything before you start your job. It'll be really helpful.
I'm Seriously, like, I know it sounds like that probably sounds a little salesy. I try not to sound salesy, but I've heard I come off salesy anyway, no matter what I do. Yeah, it's just that you don't want to, you're starting your job feels like the biggest milestone in the world. Like you overcame everything and you're here and you transitioned in and it's just incredible. But it's your first step in a career. Like in this career, look around, like this thing can be blown wide open, but only if you let it. Like I've got a good friend, still lives in my hometown, works for a company in my hometown, in Georgia. And he took a job making $70,000 in 2013, something like that. Really good. He had a couple of years of experience at the time, but in 2013, he took a job in our hometown making 70K. I talk to him regularly. He does not make six figures yet. It's been 10 years, does not make, and that is not abnormal. Like I think if you come from the talent stacker world and you come from like our coaching and hearing what we talk about in the salary numbers, you're like, what? That's crazy. But if you're in the general public and you haven't like listened to like our talk track, it's like, yeah, of course. Like not every job pays 100K. And it's like, no, they can. I mean, have you talked to anyone? Have you implemented a strategy? Have you taken an approach? Have you put in the time to try to create that situation for yourself? And it's not all about money, right? To me, it was largely about putting food on the table and then designing a life that I enjoyed. And for me, I wanted to make, I took a job when I was 6 years into my career. I took a job that paid $70,000 because it was only 20 hours a week. And that meant better lifestyle for me. So anyway, I could go on, but yeah, there is a major difference. If you haven't landed a job yet, this isn't for you. You can hang out, talk, ask questions, all that fun stuff, but largely focus on getting that first job before you try to purchase your way into something bigger than that first job.
Next question is from Ashlyn. I might tweak it a little just to focus on the independent consulting piece of this or freelancing. How do you decide which skills to focus on, or maybe how can this program help you decide which skills to focus on, how to build community to fill in the skill gaps you would need to serve your ideal clients? Maybe just a high level on the independent consulting piece.
Awesome. Yep. So I flipped over on the screen share if anybody's still looking at it, for the independent consulting piece. So at least you can see sort of the titles we're looking at. Now, as far as skills go, like what certifications do I need? What skills are valuable? Largely, I tell some people, if you know what you want to be, right? Like if you came from a marketing background and you want to go marketing cloud, cool. If you came from a sales background and CPQ just kind of clicks for you, cool. Support, you might go service cloud heavy, sales cloud heavy for sales, right? So there's different approaches. If you naturally are drawn to something and that technology is just fitting for you, like for me, I was kind of the really weird one in the bunch of the consultants. I enjoyed data migrations. I enjoyed companies that had a big database and all the data was dirty and ugly and not in the right tables. They have flat data that needed to be, expanded out into multiple tables. They had multiple tables that really should have just been one record. All these, it could have record types instead of a different object for every single, lots of different nuances. I loved taking a 1,000,000 record Excel file and breaking it out into tables and aligning the columns and importing that into Salesforce and building a Salesforce database out of a big flat file. Like that was enjoyable to me. I was drawn to that. I took all the projects that were data migration stuff. So largely I was able to move into consulting or freelance consulting. And man, I could literally keep projects on the table just from talking to other consultancies where they had migration projects that nobody wanted to take and just be like, hey, I'll pick up your migration work. If you got something you want to toss me, and like send me the Google Drive with all the Excel files and let's hop on a meeting for an hour and I'll put them all together and have it ready to load into Salesforce and it'll be awesome. So there's one approach where your specialty is very natural to you. Organically, you're like, I like this. This feels good. I want to move in this direction. Now, for a lot of people, that's not true. A lot of people, they'll land their first entry-level job and their specialties will emerge because of what that first company used them for, right? Like if you go to a company that uses Sales Cloud, then that's going to be probably what you get the most experience with. If you go to a consultancy that specializes in financial services or specializes in nonprofit or what have you, then ultimately that's going to become your early specialty in your career. If you hate it, then I would recommend moving towards something and sort of broadening your horizons. If you don't hate it and you even kind of like it a little and it's okay-ish, I would lean into it and get really good at it, because things become really a lot more fun when you're the expert and somebody gives you something that seems dauntingly hard and you're like, I got that. So when you become a specialist at something, even if it wasn't your favorite thing a year ago, it can become really enjoyable when you're just really good at it. And so I would say if you're looking to move into freelancing, before I started Talent Stacker, I ran a freelancing community, right? Salesforce specific freelancing with a Salesforce specific freelancing course. And that was my bread and butter. I did it for 4 years. I lived it, right? I capped out at like 225K, but I only worked 20 hours a week. And so when you can design that, and I'm not saying that's what everybody's going to go do. What I can tell you though, is if you want to be an independent consultant or freelancer, whatever you want to call it, and you want to make 200K, it's absolutely doable. Give it like 18 months, like take steps every week, 18 months. You will be there. It's just part of being consistent, and having that outline and having that journal and having those goals set out. Now, if you want to be there in 18 months and you just buy the course and you're like, I'm just going to scroll these lessons and then I'll just be there, it's not going to happen. You're not just going to watch a video and be there, right? Like it's a lot of things. It's your branding. It's you pulling down these templates and actually networking and letting people know you're interested in doing some work. And then you slowly build rapport and you slowly build awareness that you're interested in this. And you get your first client, you get your second client. Then one client fires you and a project goes awful and you learn from it and you grow from it. And then suddenly you find yourself in a rhythm and things are good. One thing I'll point out, this right here, managed services agreements, holy mecca of Salesforce independent consulting. Like this is it right here. Like that video, Brad, I can't be a freelancer because the projects come and go. And then I finished one and I got to start a new one. And that happens all the time. And I have to do this and that. And I have a project this week and the next month I don't. And it's hard to know if I'm going to have, sustainable income on the table every month. A W-2 job gives me that secure income. Like, okay, they can fire you tomorrow, but okay. The freelance job doesn't give me secure income. It can. And managed services agreements are how you do that. I had managed services agreements where I got paid $40,000 a year from one company on a contract. They would pay $3,500 a month, 12 months out of the year. I was on a retainer for them. I had that with 4 different companies. So when you do that, I had one company that paid me $40,000 a year. And 1 year, they only had me do 100 hours of work because they were going through a migration. They were going through a massive transition. They had been acquired. They were being merged into another company. They wanted to keep the current contract alive, but they didn't have consistent work for me to do, but they wanted me to be there when they needed me. And I made $4,000 an hour for a year on their work, so like that's where people get in and they go, well, if you only charge $100 an hour, $150 an hour, how are you ever going to make $200,000 a year working part-time? It's because when you actually understand the strategies of how an independent consultancy is run and you stop going off of your limiting beliefs where you go, Brad, 100 times 20 hours is 2,000 and 2,000 times 52 weeks in a year is not $200,000. When you assume you know exactly how everything works, the math's never going to work out. When you accept that someone else might actually understand the process of how this actually functions, then you can learn, you can grow, and you can do things like actually operate your own independent consultancy. And I'll point out too, I did data migrations and admin work, never development work, never CPQ, never marketing cloud, Pardot, field service lightning. I did not specialize in those ways. You don't have to either, but my advice would be that you do. Let me be your coach, not, don't mimic what I do. Let me coach you on what I think you should do based on what I've learned. So yeah. And I'll say too, my goal in this program has been you starting from, ultimately, it's not my finish line. There are a lot of minds that went into making this program a reality. But ultimately, I want you to start at our finish line. So it's like handing off the baton. You don't run the race that we ran. You start at the finish line after the race that we ran, and then you run forward from there.
Inspired. Next question. Sorry, there's a lot of questions going on. That was great. This one is from behind the scenes, but I have been in a Salesforce consultant role for almost a year. I don't like it, right? I found it doesn't align with me as a person or tap into my interest or skills. Much of the time, I need guidance, but I'm not sure what type of Salesforce role would fit. Should I wait to figure that out or to join until I found a direction? Or do I join now? Like, I don't want to waste the year of the program. Can you talk a little bit to that?
I would say completely biased, of course, but that's why we're all here, right? To hear my biased opinion on this topic. I would say you sound like the perfect fit. If you are lost in your current role, if your career is not going the way, if you are not reaching that thing you set out to reach, if you are not content, and I'll say too, like I've caught some flack on my like socials, which is okay. I'm very comfortable with that. Where I'm like one of those typical influencers that's like, oh, we always have to be pushing and we always have to be growing. And if you don't have a growth mindset, then you're wrong. And okay, yeah, you're right. I do talk a lot about growth mindset and like always pushing ourselves and challenging ourselves. But I'll say if you're content, and I mean truly content, like if your life is good, you spend the time you want with your kids, you vacation when you want to, you hike the tallest mountains in Ireland, and you do that on a weekday, and that's just part of your life and you're enjoying it. That's awesome. Like, I don't know that I would join the program, because I don't know that there's going to be a goal that motivates you. Like if you don't have something motivating you to move to that next step, now we can define that. If you're telling me you're unhappy in your role, it's not what you thought it would be. You think there's more out there. You think there's more you can achieve. Honestly, I think now, do you have to put in the work? Yeah. But I think this is like a clear path. Like I'll just use like trail analogies because we all understand them in the Salesforce world. But like, just because I'm sure Alex could tell you and anybody else who like loves hiking in the outdoors, there are trails that are clear, right? And I would call this a trail that is very clear. There are, people who come out and they maintain it. And we make sure that it's always upgraded and it's always updated and the path is clear and you can see directly where you need to go. There's indicators on every tree to make sure you stay on the right path and you know exactly where to step. However, sometimes it's muddy. Sometimes the rocks are steeper than what you thought they were going to be. Sometimes you got to take a break because the mountain, just the elevation is higher than you expected. A trail being clear does not mean an easy trail. It means it's clear and you know where to go next. It doesn't mean it's easy. So that's what I would call this. And I would say that if you're unhappy in your Salesforce career, or even if you're happy in your career, but you just think there's a next step, there's a step to making more money, there's a next step to having your own business, there's a step to having more autonomy, there's a step to experiencing consulting versus internal or internal versus consulting or whatever it might be, then I would say that you're going to find a trail for you in here and the trail is going to be clear and you're still going to have to come put in the work. But I would say that I enjoy, in my personal life, I enjoy putting in the work because the things that make me feel the most accomplished are things that are a challenge. And I would prefer a good challenge where I win than having something really, really easy tossed in my lap. And you wouldn't want that anyway, because that means everybody would be able to accomplish it, right? You want to be the one who can accomplish it. Yeah, you've got a trail guide, but you can have a trail guide and turn back around and go back to base any moment, right? So we want to be the ones who get to the finish line and get you where you want to go. And this is a guided approach to doing that.
Next one is, and I'll just say to this person, originally we were going to open this up for even more than Salesforce careers. Because Bradley was like, this is for everyone. Like everyone needs this. So the next question is, what if we're in the Salesforce ecosystem, but we want to maybe pivot to more of a project management or Salesforce adjacent position? Would this program still have a benefit for those people?
Yeah, like Alex said, she had to deal with me a lot during this process of making this a reality. And one of the realizations I made is like, at one point, you'll probably see, let me see if I can. Yeah, you see like, this is like, if you can see this tiny little bubble, this is me outside recording this video, right? So much content, like an ungodly amount of content, right? I'm going through these and I can only record like 3 videos a day because I lose that energy. I lose that excitement. Like I get tired too. Like, believe it or not, like I also get tired. And but I told her I like had this realization that I think I sort of knew, but definitely made this realization in creating the content. It's like, I can just stop saying Salesforce. If I just stop saying the word Salesforce, this is for any tech job in the world. Like every tech role has contractors and consultants and internal and freelance and independent consulting and building your brand and all these things. So I would say I don't know where you're looking, like project management, if you want to transition CRMs and go to HubSpot, God forbid, or something else, some other technology, it doesn't matter. Microsoft Dynamics, that'd be insane. But if you decided to go with a different technology, I largely believe that you could go through here, and anytime you see the word Salesforce, replace it with what you're going for. And ultimately, this would work for you.
Next questions. They're kind of species specific or position specific. So how is this? Yeah, I used to be an ecologist. Okay, that was my previous life. So species is what I talk about. How is this program helpful for insert position here? BAs, developers. Can you give me ideas of how it's specific for those kind of beyond the admin roles, or what things are there to help?
Gosh.
I know.
Oh yeah. I would say this is species agnostic. This is very much for, I would truly say, anyone in the, I mean, I don't care if you're like a product owner or a project manager or an engagement manager. I can like keep listing roles. Like it could be like a thing where we see how many roles I can list. But we're not going to do that. Really any role, because you have to zoom out on this a little bit. And this is about your goals. You will notice I could scroll this. I could just sit here and scroll this, and you can screen record and you can come back and make me pause and come back. What's not in here? Certification training. Like, we're not zooming in like that. This is not Salesforce certification training. That's $19 for a study guide and a practice exam, whatever else you need to make a 65 on a test and get a certification. Okay. Like, that's not what we're doing. Number one, we would like, the facilitation of that is absurd. Like, I've talked to Martin Gessner at Focus on Force, Dave Massey at Get Force Certified. Like, those guys put in work just to keep an admin exam up to date for a year, like, it's a lot. And these things are things that I've found are continually beneficial for me throughout my career, whether I was an entry-level admin, because we're talking about topics like independent consulting. You could consult as a CPQ specialist. You could consult as a marketing cloud specialist. You could consult as a project manager or a product owner or a business analyst, anything you want to consult as. When we're interviewing, it's very much the same regardless of the role. Of course, we have to speak to the stories that we need to tell for the role that we're applying for, right? But it's not specifically, we need to know what a for loop is because we're applying for a development role. Like, that's not what we're going through. I expect you to know what you're doing as a Salesforce professional, and I'm going to take your skills to levels in your life that you didn't, either you had heard that they were possible and you were skeptical, or you didn't know were possible. And now you're going to go like, holy smokes, can I legit do that like me? Like, I can do that? I don't have to be like some like entrepreneur, or I don't have to be like a David K. Liu, right? Like, I can be this. Yes, you absolutely can be this. You can do anything in your life. You can do whatever you want with these skills. It's not like, oh, you're an admin, so now that you're an admin, you have to go for advanced admin, and that's your path. Or, oh, you're a developer. Well, you got to do platform app builder, and then PD1, and then PD2, and then JavaScript. It's not that cut and dry. Like, you can do whatever you want with your career. We all may one day have to navigate a layoff. We all may want to negotiate our starting salary at a company, or follow up on applications, or understand strategies for actually how to search for jobs and get in the top 5% of anyone who's applying for those jobs every single time. This is role agnostic, and I can pretty well tell you that no matter what you're doing, you are going to get incredible value. I think in some of the marketing, I pretty much outlined, I believe it was like 3 or 4 different ways that this program pays for itself, hands down. Like, we're not talking about, let's say you fall short. Let's say you don't make $225,000 a year working 20 hours a week. Let's say you make 40% more working 40 hours a week. Same amount of hours, you make 40% more. You shot for the stars and landed on the moon. It's still hyper worth it to invest in your career. And I know that, especially right now, we're talking like 2023 into summer, like, this is a gross economic period. I think most people would agree. I know that the price of admission is not nothing. I get that. But I truly believe, I would not sit here and talk to you face to face if I didn't truly believe that the price of admission is pennies if you actually use the program. If you actually use the program, the price of admission will, I mean, you'll just be smiling about, you can't believe that that was the price.
I just wanted to make a comment that I don't know if everyone's aware that, how much money people spend on hiring career coaches to get to the next level in their career, sometimes $10,000, like I just saw someone recently post about their offering to help people and mentor them for money, for in exchange. And this program is so much more than just about, learning this or that. When it comes from the background, I think underlying it is that whole lifestyle design thing that I don't see in a lot of other programs or any other program, and that maybe even some career coaches don't even touch on so much to this level. And the fact that it comes from like the Choose a Five sort of financial independence movement, a lot of people aren't aware of that either, and that just sets another level of kind of care that we have for people and what they're doing. It's not just about move here, move there, get to this level and XYZ. It's like this whole life. How does it all work together? And we give so much to each other in this community, the community that's already existed and will continue to exist through this program. But we care about the whole person, which is so valuable. I think we all should really recognize that it's so much more than what job am I going to get next.
Yeah, thank you. No, that it's so true. Like I'm so confused about what Talent Stacker is. Are we like a Salesforce thing? Are we like a lifestyle group? Like what are we?
You mean we're not a cult like everybody else says?
Well, I mean, we're definitely a cult, but just like what is the topic the cult's about, I think is the question.
Like a good cult? Is there a good cult?
Can there be good cults? Yeah.
We have cookies and stuff. Oh, Holly has a good question. What type of CAP events are there?
Ooh, you might know better than I do, Alex. Yeah. I know the ones I'm doing. Like I'm hanging out doing freelance talks and building your own business. And if you've spent this last hour with me, we'll go off topic and talk about some stuff. But no, I mean, I truly enjoy the stuff I get to talk about. Man, I just like doing tax strategy around it. It's so much more than just like a Salesforce freelance business, right? Like I love independent consulting because I get to like, what type of business do I need? How do I strategize around taxes to make sure that like, yeah, I want to pay my part, but I also want to do what's legally, allowed. And just being able to like handle personal finances and run businesses in creative ways. Like I love this stuff. So yeah, or will we help you get off the ground? But yeah, I'm going to talk about a lot more too, because you're going to have to deal with me. But yeah, I guess Alex, do you know off cuff what else we have in store?
Yeah, lots of great stuff. So we only have the end of the year planned for it now, just because we wanted to kind of see what people were going to want. So we have monthly chats with Bradley on freelancing. So if you just like want to hang out with him, he also likes to talk about his animals. So you can talk freelancing and farming at the same time. Mm-hmm. And then we also, another one, I'm going to do one on digital nomading, because this is all about lifestyle design. And with your Salesforce career, there are different options available for you. And I've had lots of questions about that just over the year. So I want to do a whole thing on it. We're bringing in some Salesforce MVPs to kind of talk about their experience and things that have like helped them as they've gotten started and into the ecosystem. So there's things like that. We're doing a end of the year Talent Stacker CAP kind of party with a panelist of our team, talking about what do we do at the end of the year to prepare for the next year. So just different takes on that. That will be led by Anita. So all sorts of things. It's a mix of freelance, it's a mix of lifestyle design, it's a mix of Salesforce, and kind of like what things you can be doing to elevate your career. And then the one thing I will say is this is your program. So if there are things as you join the Accelerator program that you're like, I want to learn about XYZ, or I want to talk about this, or maybe even you yourself are like, I am giving a talk at Dreamforce and I want to practice. These are all available to you. We have a whole section called How I Solved It, because a lot of times it's like you don't even know the problems you're going to come up against until you do. And so we have a couple in there to get started of how we've solved different problems in our admin consulting different spaces. But if you're like, well, I had this problem and I came up with this really elegant solution, there's also a place for you guys to put kind of videos in as well.